Good evening. Well, the big news of the day is that Nigel Farage has just unveiled the strictest illegal immigration plan in British history.
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route. And if we do that, the boats will stop coming within days, because there would be no incentive to pay a trafficker to get into this country. If you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay, period.
Well, here is that plan, right? So deport 600,000 people in Reform's first term. Build detention sites with a capacity of 24,000 within the first 18 months of office. Leave the ECHR. Repeal the Human Rights Act. Disapply the Refugee Convention for 5 years. On top of that, they're going to do returns deals with countries like Afghanistan and Eritrea. They're going to detain and deport women and children as well. They're going to use overseas territories like the Ascension Islands for overflow if necessary. They're also going to deport visa overstayers and make tearing up your identity documents a criminal offence. Now, Nigel Farage says that the British public have had enough, and he's right. He says that we risk serious civil unrest if this isn't sorted immediately. And he's right. He says it's time to pick a side, and he's right.
And all of it really poses one big fundamental question. Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of women and children being safe on our streets? Or are you on the side of outdated international treaties backed up by a series of dubious courts?
And you've got people like the CEO of Care for Calais crying about it on Sky News.
I noticed that Nigel Farage brushed off quite quickly the question about women and children. He said, well, 3/4 of them are young men. Well, actually, that makes 25% of them women and children. What is going to happen to them? What happens about unaccompanied minors? Are they going to be deported? And deported where? To where? How? I mean, is a plane load going to land in Syria? Is it going to land with former members of the Afghan National Army in Afghanistan and hand them straight over to the Taliban?
I mean, firstly, that guy obviously did not listen to Nigel Farage's speech because he addressed those things. However, that bloke doesn't seem to see a problem with people illegally crossing loads of countries to break into Britain. But gosh, the idea of sending someone back to Afghanistan, it's impossible. Cry harder, mate, all right? Just on that deal with the Taliban, look, it's unpalatable to many people, and I get that. But so is this. An Afghan raped a 15-year-old schoolgirl in Scotland. Some of the other Afghan greatest hits that we've had here in Britain include Abdulazidi, who doused a woman and child with acid in Clapham. I mean, it's non-stop, this stuff. Nigel Farage has said that Afghans who helped British troops won't be deported. And the point is this. Once you send the first lot of Afghans back, they stop coming. You don't have to keep doing it. Now, of course, the Taliban will do a deal. Zia Yusuf has set aside about £2 billion to help convince them. That is apparently about 15% of their entire GDP. There were other aspects to this deal as well. She's going to deport visa overstayers.
If you look at those that have claimed asylum in the last year, the biggest single category comes from Pakistan. And they haven't come by boat. They've come with the excuse they're coming to visit relatives, then they overstay. And that racket, absolute racket, that's been going on for years has to end.
Yeah, he wants to put Brits at the top of the housing waiting list and ensure that they are the first in the queue for benefits. People on the left are calling it extreme. People like Lib Dem leader Ed Davey.
Looks like Nigel Farage wants to follow his hero Vladimir Putin and pull out of the EHCR. I think Winston Churchill would be turning in his grave at that. The truth is, it was Farage's Brexit that caused the small boats. Before Brexit, we could send back any illegal immigrant coming over in a small boat. Actually, Nigel Farage should have apologised today.
I mean, there's so much to go out there, isn't there? But we haven't got the time. I'll just say how pathetic he is. Firstly, though, it's not actually extreme. It's normal.
Will Border Force be seeking out people who are here illegally, possibly many of them working in the criminal economy? Yes, it's what normal countries do all over the world. It's what normal countries do.
Secondly, now Labour are actually copying him. So they have now said today, after Farage finished speaking, that they will consider doing deals with Afghanistan and Eritrea. Terrible news for the Labour MPs that were very quick to go on social media earlier on, saying that not only was this unpalatable, but it couldn't be done. I mean, one of their ministers, Matthew Pennycook, told this to GB News.
We've been very honest about the fact that we were never going to fix the broken immigration and asylum system we inherited overnight, but we are making tangible progress in terms of deporting people with no right to be here. This ambitious pilot scheme we've got in place with France now. Asylum seekers have been detained under it. We'll see removals to France in the coming week. But when it comes to the ECHR, we don't think it's in our national interest to withdraw completely, put ourselves in the same camp as two other countries, Russia and Belarus. But that is not to say that we don't think the convention needs reform.
Bookmark that. Bookmark what he just said there about people being returned to France in the coming weeks, because it should be in the coming 48 hours. We signed the deal with them. We got it over the line on August the 6th. We had 3 days to tell them who we were sending back. They had 14 days to tell us if they'd accept or reject them. Time's up, sunshine. Time's up. Why is it going to take a few more weeks? And just look at the way that Reform presented this tonight, OK? Huge flag. Gravitas, bit of presence there in an aircraft hangar. Thinking of the little details as well. They've got a departure board here. I think we can show. There you are. Illegal migrants boarding. You've got the countries on the side there. Fine. Now just compare that to how utterly stale Sir Keir Starmer is.
And I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage.
Look how stale Kemi Badenoch is. I mean, it looks like she's hosting a sales meeting at DFS. Doesn't it? Nigel Farage is banking on the fact that the British people have had enough and that even just the threat of this plan will be enough to stop the invasion of Britain. I must say, I do suspect that he's right about both of those things. And in the last few moments, some breaking news for you. The Taliban has responded to Mr Farage's proposals today and said it is willing to work with the reform leader. An official told The Telegraph, "We are ready and willing to receive and embrace whoever he sends us. We are prepared to work with anyone who can help end the struggles of Afghan refugees, as we know many of them do not have a good life abroad. We will not take money to accept our own people, but we welcome aid to support newcomers. Afghanistan is the home to all Afghans, and the Islamic Emirate is determined to make this country a place where everyone, those already here, those returning, or those being sent back from the West by Mr Farage or anyone else, can live with dignity." Well, there you go. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Former Conservative MP Heather Wheeler, we've got political commentator Jonathan Liss, and the Telegraph's Poppy Coburn. Right, OK, Poppy, I'll start with you again. So what do you make of Farage's mass deportation plan?
I mean, look, forget one in, one out. Why not just out? I literally do not think you could come up with a better policy that goes through comprehensively exactly what you need to do to fix the migration system. You know, I think Farage has been accused for so long by Labour and the Conservatives of being all slogans, all bluster. He hasn't got a plan. He doesn't actually know what he's going to do. Well, he's got one now. It's totally comprehensive. He's got a roadmap. He knows the conventions we have to leave. He knows the legal challenges that he's going to have to face, and he's also willing to make tough decisions. He's willing to make a deal, for example, with the Taliban. And just quickly, because I'm sure people are going to say, that's unconscionable, how could you do that? Well, Germany, OK? Germany, the EU's Germany is also looking into a returns agreement that would mean the recognition of the Taliban government. This is just a common sense solution to have a sane and safe migration policy that works for everyone in Britain. OK,
Heather, your views on that plan outlined as it was?
Well, flattery is, and following on from what Kemi Badenoch was producing is great. I mean, you know, that's where we are. The decisions that are going to be made are going to be announced at conference, which is only in about 3.5 weeks' time. So we're absolutely delighted that he's come up with all of this, because it's just following what we were doing.
So you think this is Nigel Farage copying the Conservatives?
Completely and utterly, which is fine. I've got no problem with that because it's the right thing to do. It's absolutely the right thing to do.
OK. Jonathan, you look utterly despondent here at the idea that we might be stopping illegal immigration into Britain.
I think it's a reprehensible, stupid plan that is not worked out in any way. You say it's a plan. Saying we're going to deport 600,000 people isn't a plan. I think it's absolutely disgusting, even if there was a plan, but there isn't. It would be the most ambitious thing that a government has ever planned. It would cost billions and billions of pounds. You'd run into the same problems that you have when you plan anything. What community is going to want a prison camp built in their... No, I'm saying that it's not possible. And there is such a thing as the separation of powers. There is such a thing as a judiciary. There is such a thing as human rights, whether or not Nigel Farage likes it. You can't just wipe away hundreds of years of a constitution that says people have have a right to a hearing.
It's interesting you bring up the constitutional aspect, because I can tell you that the Human Rights Act was introduced in Britain in 1998. OK, that's not the Magna Carta. That's something that's, nearly as old as I am.
Well, Magna Carta does, in fact, provide for a separation of powers.
Does it say that if
and we've had successive policies over those 8 centuries that say a government, the executive, whether it's a king or prime minister, cannot simply do what he likes with...
You'd carry on. It's costing us billions a year now.
Patrick, as we talk about migration and asylum literally every week. You know perfectly well what my position is, that we should have a humane asylum policy where people are allowed safe and legal routes to come here, so we don't need the boats.
OK, so Poppy, the slight thing that people are picking up on here is the idea that he might be willing to deport women and children. Would you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if illegal means anything, it means illegal. OK, if we're not having a distinction of a rule that must be followed for everyone, it doesn't work. I mean, I'd like to point out, by the way, that there are 123 million people around the world who are currently be displaced because of war. OK, I'm not saying that these people should be forced back to their countries, but it's a massive logical leap to go from I am fleeing Afghanistan to I deserve to settle in Britain. There's a lot of countries along the way. The point is that there are pull factors that muddy the line between refugee status and economic migration.
But that's why we have the asylum system.
This is why David Blunkett of the Labour Party has suggested leaving the ECHR. He's not Putin.
Well, look, he's on the right of the Labour Party.
Oh, come on.
Of course he's on the right of the Labour Party, Patrick. Of course he is.
He's not really being far right, is he? I mean,
it's far right.
Heather, so just with this then, I mean, do you think this would actually work? Because the whole point of this is I think people jump up and down. I think what Nigel Farage would say is that if he does this and does it right for like a few weeks, then you don't really have to keep doing it because the problem goes away.
Absolutely. So, I've been lucky enough to have an amazing political career. One of the weirdest and incredible things I did was go out to the Congo to look at where the refugees from the Lord's Resistance Army were being based. 2,500 in a camp. And it was spotless. And there was absolutely no trouble whatsoever. They did not leave that camp. And the Congo were looking after them because they were, in effect, fighting in Rwanda. I mean, these were really horrible people. I mean, genuinely bad people. But they were contained. People in the villages around felt completely safe. So we don't know how many of these people coming over in the boats are bad people. We just don't know.
Heather, you can understand that people are not exactly going to trust your party on this, given that it was under 14 years of Conservative rule that the asylum situation, because it is obviously a problem, everyone agrees it's a problem, it kind of was completely ballooned. So why would anyone trust your party?
Well, the answer is we're coming up with ideas right now.
No, because you can see Farage coming, you're trying to outflank him.
Should we trust Keir Starmer? Because didn't he sign a letter to keep foreign offenders in Britain?
Patrick, as I've said to you many, many times, I do not support the Labour policy on migration. And I also think...
you support the one where he signed the letter to keep the foreign criminals in Britain?
I also think that there is such a thing as a Good Friday Agreement.
You just want to answer
and
that?
Also, I don't know what letter you're talking about.
Okay,
but there is also such a thing as a Good Friday Agreement and the agreement with the EU, which demand that we are part of the European Convention of Human Rights. So if you want to sort of compromise peace in Northern Ireland and also get a no-deal Brexit, then that's something that we should talk about.
OK, so is that a problem? Because that is the line that's coming out. If we scrap the ECHR, we scrap the Good Friday Agreement. Is that a problem for you, Poppy, or not?
I mean, obviously it's going to be problematic, but I think it's far more problematic to ignore the issue that's now polling as the #1 most important issue in the country. OK, it's been important to people for 25 years. There is no choice anymore. You don't get to moralise to people. You don't get to tell them that they're wrong. People have been very, very clear. It's destroyed the Conservative Party. It's currently destroying the Labour Party. It's going to make Nigel Farage Prime Minister. So I think we all just need to make peace with the fact that this is the only sensible way forward. You need to have a proper migration policy and a proper refugee policy for the 21st century.
On that, then, Heather, where are the Tories, or where should they be, in your opinion, on the ECHR? Because there are benefits to the ECHR. We kind of said that through gritted teeth, but there are, and the reform plan is to scrap it all. Would it lead to a war again on the island of Ireland?
There are problems. Let's not be silly about this. The idea of a completely free border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland is going to be put at risk. The Northern Ireland people don't want a border, and we say to the Southern Ireland people, if you don't like it, well, you pay for a border, and it's as simple as that. But that won't help matters. It'll actually make things worse. But in the short term, I think we need to absolutely look and see what Denmark are doing. Absolutely look and see what Sweden are doing. Absolutely look and see what Germany are doing.
Well, none of them are pulling out the ECHR, that's for sure.
Well, they're getting derogations left, right and centre from it. So absolutely.
If you want to talk about things that have destabilised Northern Ireland as well, I mean, Ballymena recently had loads of riots over the placement of refugees in HMOs. If you want to talk about the most destabilising force in Britain right now, it's the placement of people in asylum hotels and HMOs across the country. If you don't fix that, you're going to have more protests.
Well, Ballymena had race riots. I don't think that we should sort of see those as legitimate somehow.
I'm not saying it's legitimate, I'm saying they happen.
Yes, and plenty of bad things happen, and we shouldn't sort of simply be in hock to them. And the other thing, Patrick, to say is that in this plan, we're going to send people back to countries that are not safe by any means. The Taliban, we fought the Taliban, and now we're going to give them billions of pounds and send people right into their arms. Make that make sense.
Yeah, but you know what
and Sudan is currently gripped by civil war. We're going to send people back there as well, are we? I'm sorry, but people do care
about young
Britain has a refugee
in playgrounds across the country being videoed, being raped, being sexually assaulted by men.
They are raped. They're raped by British people. 85% of white British people. 85% of cases.
But I can't.
We can deal with that. We can deal with anything.
Deal with that. I really have a problem with the idea of Afghan rapists, raping a 15-year-old girl in Scotland. I have a problem with that, and I'm sorry, but if the price to pay to stop that is to send a few people back to Afghanistan, I don't know how many people out there care
Britain
about
takes
that.
far fewer asylum seekers than comparable European countries. Those other European countries, they manage the situation. They are not leaving the ECHR. The only countries have left that are Russia and Belarus, and we cannot
it's
say
destabilising every single European country. It's literally destabilising every single European country 10 years ago that did not have a hard right party now has one because of the asylum issue. It will destroy any political party that ignores it.
Do you think? I mean, obviously, look, a lifelong Conservative. I kind of expect what you're going to say here, but. You look at that from Nigel Farage today. Do you think that's the election now? It's his to lose?
I think it's helpful that he's finally brought out a plan because he's been talking about it for 4 months and he hasn't done it before. The fact that the plan is actually based on our bill that we put in that they didn't vote for, unbelievable. But, I think we can all push in the same direction on this one. I genuinely do.
All right. Well, there we go. I suppose the proof will be in the pudding, won't it, really? But, yeah, loads more to come.